All right. I would like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Full house, which is fun to see. And we got a lot of things to celebrate today, students and faculty and artists. So that will be fun. And then we've got some business to deal with too. So we'll start with flag salute. And Amanda, would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, do we have any changes or additions to the agenda?
We do not this evening. Thank you.
All right, can I get a motion for the consent agenda?
I move we approve the consent agenda as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And that leads us to the superintendent.
To a lot of fun this
Mhm.
evening. Welcome, everyone. The first report we have is our Ridgefield High School student leadership update. And tonight we have our ASB president, Jack Radosevich, here to give our update.
All right, hi everyone. I'm Jack Radosevich from the high school, the ASB president, here to give a little update on what ASB has been working on this month. So one of our big things for November was the Pin It Forward movement. It was a really cool thing our senior class did as our kind of give project for the month. So we wrote on about 1,000 of those pins, 1,000, and spread them around the school. We would go up behind people kind of secretly and put them on their backpacks, put it on their jackets, and they just have little kind messages just to get them through the day. And it was kind of just an awesome kind of spread of positivity for that month. And it was really cool. It went better than expected, and people would have challenges like this guy, he about collecting, and then they would pass them on. So it was really cool. And then we had our turkey wall, which is we have these turkeys, and then people would write what they're thankful for. We also decorated the 100 building. We had little turkeys, we had leaves, just spreading that fall joy, keeping people happy. And then one thing that ASB has been working big on this year is just recognizing our clubs. So we have a passion project in our class called the Club Recognition. And what they've been doing is they've been printing weekly schedules that are themed like this and posting them around the school so people know what's going on. And hopefully getting better attendance at a lot of our events, as well as we now have a club of the week in the announcements every week, a new club every week. And that just tells them like who leads the club, how they can join, and just promoting all that Ridgefield has to offer and hopefully getting people involved. So it's been really cool to hear all the amazing clubs we have. So yeah. And then last is the giving tree, which we have here, we have in our library, and then we have at Rosars. We partner with the Family Resource Center, so all gifts go there. We have about 56 tags, but that kind of went up. Rosars, within 2 days, we put it up. Actually called us and said they ran out. So we had to get some more, which was awesome. So it's awesome seeing our community give back. And yeah, so that's all I got. Thank you. Any questions?
So proud of our student leaders. They're doing an incredible job. We are going to move next into our Student of the Month celebration for the month of December. And up first, we are going to hear from Wisdom Ridge Academy. Director Alan Andringa, to the microphone, please. Thank you.
Do I have to stand here or can I take the microphone out of here and saunter around the room? Okay. So Max, you're going to lead us off and I'm going to tell you, don't do anything yet. I'm going to tell you how to do this. And then everybody else is going to follow the lead of Max when your building principal or whomever is reading your information does that. So Max, here's how this works, and everybody else. You're going to get out of your seat. You're going to go to the end of the row where the red carpet starts. You're going to walk down the red carpet like you won an Academy Award, and then you're going to come up here, and I'm going to read the write-up that we have for you. Got it? Wisdom Ridge Academy is pleased to announce that 8th grade student Max Rodriguez is our December Student of the Month. Now walk the red carpet. Good job. Now you got to get comfortable because here I go. Max and his family moved from Utah to Ridgefield and chose Wisdom Ridge Academy because he feels he can focus better on his work in a school like Wisdom Ridge. Wisdom Ridge has helped Max become more organized and also allows him to get his work done and then study about 2 of his favorite non-school subjects, mechanics and music. Max likes to learn about car engines and how they function and also enjoys playing music on his tenor sax and creating original music. Max also plays the piano. Max's Wisdom Ridge teacher, Mrs. Robley, says, Max moved to Ridgefield this summer and joined Wisdom Ridge Academy with several of his family members. It became apparent within minutes of meeting Max that he was especially bright. He is well-spoken, mature, interesting, and so smart. In his written work, Max shines. His vocabulary and depth of response is outstanding. In math, he shows all of his steps and is clear that he is both well-educated, but also a hard worker, an analytical thinker, and very well motivated to do well. I'm so glad to have Max with us here at Wisdom Ridge. After high school, Max intends on going to university to study mechanical engineering or music. As a former music teacher and music major, I choose music for you, but you can choose whatever you want. But we'll probably focus on engineering and enjoy music as an avocation. Max is an outstanding example of the many exceptional students we have at Wisdom Ridge Academy, and we are proud to name him as our December Student of the Month. Max, who did you bring today?
My mother.
Do you want to say anything about Max? You don't have to, but this is your opportunity for a microphone, and why turn it down? All right.
I just want to say how proud I am of you, Max, and all the hardworking hours. And I am very thankful to Mr. Andringa and his teachers for showing a lot of excellence in their school and the way they come across and to give the children more experience on hands-on learning and motivating Max constantly, even through online learning, the motivation and inspiring him to keep going even on his own terms. And Mr. Andringa, you're very attentive to all your students and the school, and I'm very proud of that.
You said that exactly like I told you to say it.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
to everyone. Thank you.
Now, stay there, Max, because they're going to get a picture, and then you can go back, and then you're going to hang out until they're done, and then they're going to bring everybody up for one more picture. I knew I'd mess up.
It's okay. I'm taking your microphone away. Next up is the Early Learning Center, and I believe we have Principal Angie Gobb here to present.
I'm here to present the Student of the Month for ELC because Dr. Basquette cannot be here. The Student of the Month this month is Cici Lavero. Cici, are you in the audience, my friend? Come on up. Oh, yes. Oh, you're ready for the catwalk, my friend, but you're going to go right over here. There you go. All right, here's what the staff had to say about Cici. Our staff at the ELC nominated Cici as Student of the Month for December. One staff member stated, Cici demonstrates kindness to all of her peers as well as the staff. She's always such a helper in the classroom and to her friends. She loves to greet everyone each day and loves giving hugs and comforting others in need. She follows directions and sets a great example for the kids in the classroom. She is a leader and provides a positive attitude each and every day. Another staff member states, CC is an exceptional role model in our inclusive pre-K program, always showing kindness and understanding to her peers. She goes above and beyond to help her friends navigate through their day, offering support and encouragement whenever it's needed. With a wonderful sense of humor, Cece brings joy to the classroom while also demonstrating a deep understanding of the challenges that can arise in our setting. She's always quick to lend a hand, and her ability to help her peers de-escalate using the tools we've taught is truly remarkable. Cece's kindness and willingness to help others make her an invaluable member of our class, and we are so proud to have her as part of our community. Congratulations, Cece. Do you want to share who you brought here today? Do you think, does Cece's family want to come up and say something? Okay, well, I think the staff wrapped that up just beautifully. Congratulations, Cece. I'm back again. This time I'm here to honor the Student of the Month for Union Ridge, and this student has just such a special place in my heart. Yvonne Jackson, come on up. There you go. Yvonne Jackson is an incredible student and a joy in the classroom. She is friendly, generous, hardworking, and consistently puts 100% effort into her work. Yvonne tackles challenges with a positive attitude and determination, never letting obstacles deter her. She is kind and approachable, always eager to lend a helping hand and serve as a role model for others. Her ability to work well with all personalities and get along with everyone makes her an inspiring member of any classroom. Yvonne's motivation and drive shine even when faced with difficulties, making her a true example of grit and resilience. Union Ridge is so proud of you. Congratulations. Do you want to share who you brought today?
My family.
Okay, family. Does someone want to say something?
Yeah, Yvonne, we couldn't be more proud of you and just the work you've done this year. So as Mrs. Gobb said, just Yvonne's resilience and ability to just work hard, and she loves school. She finds a lot of joy in going to school and being with her friends and the staff. So it's just been, we felt blessed to be a part of the Union Ridge family, I guess, in school. And we also want to really thank the staff. So they've been great. When Yvonne started in second grade at Union Ridge, just from that time, we feel like she's been supported and known and encouraged. And she had Mrs. Johnson in second grade, and I think she's here. We really appreciated her. Mrs. Frazier in third grade really invested in Yvonne quite a bit. And then this year, Ms. Senko has just done a really great job, Mr. Frazier or Mr. Franson as well. So we're thankful for you guys and really proud of Yvonne.
All right, I am Jill Ninehouse. I'm the principal at Southridge Elementary School, and I have the great privilege of recognizing Aspen Sampson tonight. So Aspen, come on up, buddy. All right, so here's what staff at Southridge had to say about Aspen. Aspen is an exceptionally thoughtful and kind individual, embodying the core values of the 3 R's: respect, responsibility, and resilience. His actions and attitudes set a remarkable example for his peers, making him a true role model in and out of the classroom. Aspen is always willing to lend a helping hand and consistently takes the initiative to lead the class with thought-provoking questions and deeper thinking. His kindness and positivity shine through in every interaction, whether with a classmate or adults, fostering a supportive and welcoming environment. Aspen truly enriches Southridge, and we couldn't be prouder to have him as a Roadrunner. Congratulations, Aspen. All right, my friend, who did you bring with you tonight?
I brought my family.
All right, family, would someone like to say anything about Aspen? Yep, Mom, here we go.
Aspen, I just want you to know that we are all so very proud of you. Every day you amaze us. You tolerate a lot with your little sister sometimes. I know it's hard, but you are an extra special person. And thank you for allowing us to be your parents. And Southridge, thank you for nurturing Aspen and always, listening to our concerns and being there to support us. So thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. I have the honor of recognizing the Sunset Ridge Student of the Month. That's Liam Sansbury. Come on down, Liam Sansbury. All right, Liam, this is what Sunset Ridge has to say about you. Liam is a student who really stands out, not just because of his achievements, but because of the kind, dependable, and flexible person that he is. As a student, Liam is a workhorse. He approaches every task with dedication, complete effort, and a sincere interest in achieving the goals of the assignment, not just getting a good grade. He asks questions that develop his understanding and is always responsible when it comes to completing his work, no matter how long it takes. What impresses us the most about Liam is his kindness and flexibility. He never complains when asked to do something unpleasant or when a peer is unkind or disruptive. In fact, he goes out of his way to be inclusive and welcoming to all of his peers, including those who don't reciprocate this kindness or can be difficult to get along with. No matter what, he treats each student and staff member with care and respect. Liam is truly deserving of the honor of Student of the Month due to his hard work, kindness, and constant attention to quality. Now, I know you've already told your mom you don't want her to say anything, but are you sure about that?
Yeah. I brought my mom and my grandma.
All right. Does grandma want to say anything? Okay. All right. Nice job. Congratulations.
I just wanted to double check and see if Elijah Crawford is here. Don't believe that he is. So we do want to just congratulate Elijah Crawford and his family. He was named as the View Ridge Middle School December Student of the Month, but they weren't able to be here tonight. So we're going to move on to Ridgefield High School.
Ridgefield High School is proud to recognize Eliana Lewis as our December Student of the Month. Eliana's involvement in the Ridgefield High School community, especially within the performing arts, is a testament to their passion for finding and building supportive connections and being a friend and role model to many. Teachers like Ms. Fromlet, Mrs. Brabant, and Mrs. Etter have all had a lasting impact on Eliana, providing an optimistic space where support and advice are given when needed and a positive learning environment for all students has been fostered. But the teachers say Eliana has been the one to create this inclusive community. According to Mrs. Etter, there is no student more deserving of this recognition than Eliana. They are one of the most hardworking and dedicated members of the theater and band departments, while also being one of the kindest humans I've ever met. They care so deeply for everyone around them, it is inspiring. They are generally one of the most empathetic people I've ever known, and I feel fortunate that I've been able to work with them at RHS. Ms. Fromlet also had this to say. Eliana has an amazing ability to see people, relationships, and problems from all sides and understands the complexity of life in a way most adults can't figure out. They make everything they take part in a better, kinder experience for the people around them. Eliana is involved in a wide range of activities and to top it off, has a 4.0 GPA while taking rigorous AP courses. It is clear that Eliana's academic success is driven by hard work, perseverance, and a genuine love of learning. Eliana, thank you for being such a positive example to your peers and for making Ridgefield High School a better place. We look forward to seeing all the great things you will accomplish in the future. Who'd you bring with you tonight?
My parents. Would either of you like to speak?
So my name is Jenny. I'm also a teacher, not in Ridgefield. And we have had just the best experience in Ridgefield at all the schools. Union Ridge, the middle school, and the high school, even through COVID. When COVID hit, I was very worried. Here's what she learned during COVID. Never stay home. Go do all the things. And so I would just like to tell you, number one, how proud we are of you, but you already know that. And number two, you were right. You actually can do all the things.
We're gonna do, oh, do you want to wait till after the teachers too? Or you want a picture of all the kids? Okay, one big group photo. Okay, hold on for that photo. We're gonna now move to our employees of the month. And first up, I would like to call to the front, Erica Muir. This is the part where you're gonna say nice things about you while you stand up here and we all look at you. Mrs. Muir is an outstanding educator who exemplifies dedication to both multilingual learners and the staff who support them. She has an exceptional ability to create an inclusive, responsive classroom and school environment where language diversity is not only respected but celebrated. Beyond the classroom, Ms. Muir is a knowledgeable support for teachers of multilingual learners, offering guidance and resources to help them navigate the unique challenges of teaching English language acquisition in addition to core content. She also recognizes the importance of family engagement and works tirelessly to bridge the gap between school and home. By providing families with clear communication, ensuring their access to translated materials and interpreters, and facilitating multilingual family nights, Ms. Muir empowers families to actively participate in their children's education. Her holistic approach to supporting students, educators, and families alike makes her an invaluable resource and a true champion for multilingual learners. Congratulations, Mrs. Muir. Who did you bring with you tonight?
I brought my son and daughter.
Oh, do they want to sing? Yeah. You want to say so? Okay, come on up, sir. Here you go. Oh, careful, those are.
I just want to say I'm very proud of my mom. I love her, and I think she's doing a great job. She's the best teacher I've met, and yeah. So
that was pretty awesome. Okay, we have one more employee of the month to celebrate tonight, and it is Mrs. Stephanie Putterson. Walk that red carpet. Okay. I think this is the third time I'm giving you an award, Mrs. Putterson, so it's pretty exciting. Stephanie is such an incredible asset to our building. She has a warm, caring demeanor about her always. She's very intentional about connecting with each of her families. This looks like setting up virtual home visits with every family at the beginning of the year and taking it upon herself to contact families that are moving in to tour the building prior to their students' first day of school. This is especially impactful for our multilingual families. Stephanie brings out the best in students and colleagues alike. She makes me want to be a better teacher. She is kind, thoughtful, and dedicated. She is also always doing the best things for her third graders. Congratulations, Mrs. Pedersen. And who did you bring with you?
I've got my family that's currently in town, which is husband.
Do you want to say anything?
Completely.
Won't be good as the last one that was given, but try. But one of my favorite things to do after work is to hear Stephanie kind of recount her day and about all the joy and fun that she had at class and all the things that the students were able to experience. And then to express that joy in her class, I get to get just a little glimpse of it. So it's great to see that this is her passion. This is where she gets her fulfillment and joy from. And whenever our kids ask what they want to do for a living, we give Stephanie as the advice, or as the example, saying that just find something that you're passionate about and then study that and go and do that, because this is what she wanted to do and she does it well.
Okay, you have to just turn right back around, Stephanie, and come right back up. So all of our folks that are employees and students of the month, if you would come back down, we're going to do one big group picture. I know, it's so cute, adorable. You can get right in front. Okay, more words. I am welcoming down to the front here, Ms. Barbara Wright from the Ridgefield Art Association, who's going to help with our greeting card award winners. And Director Mandy Evans is the person behind all of our community education. Both of these ladies deserve a round of applause for all their work.
Good evening. I'm Barbara Wright. Is this on? Okay. I'm a member of the Ridgefield Art Association, and I'm also a volunteer for the school district. And I have the honor tonight to give cash awards to the winners, runners up, and honorable mention of the holiday card contest. And our Ridgefield Art Association sponsors this contest, and we're really pleased that the school district is actually one of the few in this area that offer art from preschool through high school, every grade, whereas some of the other districts cut them. And so we're proud of that. So I'm not sure if all of the students are here tonight, but I'll start with honorable mention, Samantha Parker. No, okay. I hope you have a chance afterwards to come up and look at all these cards. We're really pleased with what happened. Art Association offers and Community Ed offers workshops after school so that students can come and actually work on them at the school. We provide materials for them. The second honorable mention is Viviana Ramponi.
Viviana had our first digital art submission that I believe we've ever had in the holiday art contest. It's these adorable bears right here. Congratulations, Viviana.
Runner up is Elena Napo. I hope I'm pronouncing the name right. Alana? Not here. Okay. Another runner up, Evie Phillips. Congratulations. Another runner up, Evelyn Lanham. Congratulations. And another runner up, Kennedy Bayou, maybe. And first place is Anna Benedict. Congratulations. We really liked all of these submissions. It was pretty hard to decide, but we especially liked all the colorful and that they fell into what the theme of the holiday card is. All of the runners up and honorable mention and first place will receive printed cards of their artwork also. Thank you.
Or you can just file right in behind the kids. Everybody Okay, fantastic. I'm gonna not steal the microphone. Oh, okay, we're taking a. Will you call for a 5-minute recess? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. We're going to take a 5-minute recess. So those that want to go home, get dinner, that's fine. We have celebrated all the awesome things. Now we get to the boring things. I'm sorry. There's going to be some great presentations. Sorry. So you are free to go if you want. We're going to take a 5-minute recess and then we'll come back to business after that. Thank you.
And just real quick, if I dropped a mitten on the way in, if anybody sees the mate to this little mitten, it belongs to me. Please turn it in somewhere. Thank you.
Yeah. Are we good?
I think so.
Okay. All right, I'll call this meeting back to order. And with that, we are going to go
More reports.
more reports.
More reports. This one's going to be just as exciting as all the award winners.
Good.
I am really excited to welcome up to the microphone, which you'll probably have to power back on, our administrative team from Ridgefield High School. They are bravely doing our first school presentation, and I did throw them a little bit of a loop and said, we're going to do this a little different this year. So I'm really excited for them to share with you what they're working on in their building. I'm going to let Principal Palmer introduce her team, and we will have questions from the board. Yeah. Walk on over there, sister. The board, you're welcome to, of course, ask questions throughout, but they have space at the end of the presentation for questions as well.
Oh, it's on. We're still going to move it down so I can, yep. All right. Good evening. Thank you to those of us who stayed for what's going to be the most exciting part of the evening, guaranteed. I would like to introduce the team that is standing here to my right. So we obviously do this work with a larger team, which you'll see in just a bit. But to my right, Lindsay McQuiston is one of our assistant principals. Jeremy Tortora, another assistant principal. And then Tammy Hoodenpile she's our college and career specialist, and she's also doing her admin internship. So that's been really nice to have another admin on duty with us this year, and she's doing an incredible job. So it's been really fun to add her to our team. All right. There we go. Nope. I just wanted to make sure I was pointing at the right. I was like, where am I pointing? Okay. Excellent. I'm going to just add it. There we go. I'm really short, so I've got to like really get into this microphone. Okay. So our mission statement here is to the right. So Ridgefield High School will ensure that all students learn at grade level or higher. And like I said, we don't do this work. I mean, as an admin team, we're doing this work, but it is really a much larger job, and it takes our entire staff, which you can see to our left here. We take a staff photo every single year, and we choose a different location. This year, we did it around our Spirit Rock, and we attempted to make the letter R. No one can tell that that is the letter R. Yep. So now it just looks like we're just showing off our brown grass in the middle there. But anyway, this is the team of people, certificated, classified security, and everybody that really makes the work happen on a daily basis. So just keep that in mind as we talk through our school improvement plan tonight. We're the ones up here presenting, but this work is really done by a huge group of folks. So our mission statement, this is year one for our mission statement, and we're super excited. It came from the work that we are doing with MTSS, which Lindsay will, I'm not going to go into that right now because Lindsay is actually going to talk a bit more about that later. And when we look at all students, we are using the phrase constantly, all means all. And when we look at, we want them to learn at grade level or higher, we have people go, okay, how is that? What does that look like? Because we have students with exceptional needs. And so when we say all students learn at grade level or higher, we're talking about all of the students that will be living independently as adults. And so we have different standards that we set for our exceptional learners in our life skills program. And they have a different set of grade level standards. So I just feel like that's important to also acknowledge when we're looking at our data and everything, and we're looking through what our scores, what our data mean, because we do have different program areas. So this is our why, and this is embedded in all of the work that we do. So it's woven through our faculty meetings, it's woven through all of our professional development, and this is what's guiding our work. All right. So within our building leadership team, we have a bunch of different things happening. It's a lot of people. And so if you're looking up here going, wow, that's a big building leadership team. As you can tell, it's not just the administrative team that was just standing up here that is part of our building leadership. And so what we're really proud of is that we have dispersed this leadership among different folks across our building to lead the work, which has been really, really exciting. So because they know counselors know most about counseling, teachers know most about teaching, right? Like we have experts in these different areas, same with specialists. So this group is comprised of counselors, teacher leaders, instructional coaches, and specialists. I am really, really, really proud of this work that this team has done and is currently doing this school year. One of the things that is important is that the start of the school year in the past has been the admin team putting together all of the professional development and leading the work for our staff. This year at the start of the school year, it was different. And it was this building leadership team. And we had teachers and counselors and specialists being vulnerable, stepping out in front of their peers to lead the work. And that takes gut and courage. They're not experts in the MTSS work that we're leading. They're learning right along. They're like right ahead of what the work is that we're doing. They're not experts in public speaking, and it's nerve-wracking to get in front of your peers and be the one to take charge and lead the work. And I'm super proud that we have made that shift and that this team is doing the work. It's been pretty incredible and pretty positive. So that's a big shift we made this year. All right, next up, our demographics. So this slide really talks about who we are at Ridgefield High School and what is the makeup of our student population. We can see as we drive around town that we're obviously a growing population, but we're also a changing population and we're becoming more diverse, which is really, really exciting. I look back at my first SIP plan from 8 years ago and just to see how we've changed. I'm on year 8, and so there's some data over the years that I can look at, some longitudinal data. So when I look at our race and our ethnic kind of diversity and how we've changed, just an example, right? So we used to have, for American Indian and Alaska Native, we used to only have 0.2%. Now we're up to 0.8. For Asian, we used to be 1.7% of our student population. Now it's 2.6. Same, and then going on down the grid, Black African American, this is in 2017. We were 0.8%, and now we're up to 1.5%. Our largest population, and when we look at our subgroups, is our Hispanic Latino race. And so we went from 9.9% to 14.3%. And so we have 174 students who fall into this category. And so we have a large number. It's really exciting to see the diversity that has come to Ridgefield over the years. And then you look at the Native Hawaiian and other Pacific Islander, and that also has jumped from 0.4% to now we're at 0.6. And then 2 or more races has also increased from 6.1% to now 8.2. So as a result, our white population back in 2017 was 80.8%, and now we're at 72%. We have had a lot of change with this growth. And so our demographics look really different, which is really exciting. So I love that. I love that we have more diversity coming into Ridgefield. Our gender, these numbers have stayed the same. We have, for whatever reason, we have more females than males over the course of the years. It's been the same way. And then we have a small gender X population as well. Then when you look at the program and characteristics, this is something that's really interesting, is that this percentage as far as low income, we have to remember that as we grow and we change and we've so does some of the needs as well in the program areas. So our low income percentage when I started in 2017 was 18.5%, and now we're up to 26.2. And why that is important is because this is a fourth of our students. And so we have to keep this at the forefront of our mind as we do our work to ensure that we are removing barriers as we do the work so our learners can access what they need. So and then special education, we actually have declined a bit. We had 10.4%, we're down to 9.3%. And then we had for section 504, we've gone up from 6.2% to 9.9%. So we've had some shifts in those areas between those two as well. Our students with IEPs and 504s, it equals about 233 students who receive some sort of specialized services, including modifications and accommodations in our classrooms. So it's a good number with a combination of both of them that our teachers are serving on a daily basis. And then our English language learners that we now refer to as our multilingual learners, we used to be at 1.6% and we're almost double now at 3.0%. So that is exciting. So one of the things that I think is as important and why I took so much time on this slide is because it's important to know who we are and then what our program areas are so we know what we need to do in order to serve our individual needs. We can't just think of it as Ridgefield High School students. We really need to really look at who are our students and where are the different needs and who are they and how do we recognize their diversity, their culture, and the different needs that they come with as well. So it's important to remember that under the program and characteristics, we may have students that fall into multiple categories as well. So we can have some students that are receiving multiple services. They may be ML learners who are also in special education. And then they could also, be a variety of fit in different categories. So sometimes we think of diversity as race and ethnicity, but we've also grown in being a more diverse learning population, as you can see when I share those program areas. And so have our academic needs and our supports in order for our students to access the learning. So we've had to make some changes because you can't have a changing population with changing needs and do the same thing and expect different results. We have to meet the needs of our learners. And so it's really important that we understand who they are. All right. I'm going to talk about some assessment data, everybody's favorite. Here we go. Our Smarter Balance Assessment, our SBA. This is a glimpse of our longitudinal data with looking at our ELA proficiency, which is our reading and writing scores, and then our math proficiency over the course of some years. I apologize, I've got a cold as well. So sorry about that. This is the percentage of students. When we look at this data, what we're seeing here, this is the percentage of students who have passed the Smarter Balance exam, the Smarter Balance Assessment, the SBA, earning a 3 or 4, which measures the proficiency of the grade level learning standards. So this is taken at the high school. This is taken sophomore year. You can see our pre-COVID numbers, and then during COVID, there was not an assessment. We have to keep in mind that during 2021, this was not a full school year. And so while there was an assessment that was given, it was a bit different than the assessments that were given previously and then beyond that. So I think the scores are kind of indicative of that too in that 2021. And then you'll see it just kind of explains a bit of the jump there. And then post-COVID, you can see starting in like 21, 22, when you look at that data in both ELA as well as math, you can see that we have been improving and we're moving in the right direction and trying to kind of regain that loss of learning that happened during COVID and trying to get back up to our kind of that pre-COVID percentage, if you would, and where we were. And we've got some work still to do, I think, especially in math, when you look at our math numbers and kind of do a comparative and a crosswalk there between kind of before learning was lost and then thereafter. So our math team is working really hard and looking at data to kind of figure out exactly what's going on and how to be really intentional with that work. And Lindsay is overseeing that work and doing an incredible job with the math team. So then when we go to the next slide, so this is all students. And then we have it broken down now between those subpopulations as well. And looking at, this slide is really looking at our SBA scores in both English and math, reading and writing, ELA, and then in math. But looking at the disparity gaps, so we really know where is that work that we need to do within our subpopulations. So you can see that data. We actually took some time analyzing this as a staff and having staff check out this data and look at kind of what are their notices, what are they wondering, which is, I mean, this is an area where we've had a lot of growth. Lindsay's going to talk about this too. I mean, data can sometimes be a really scary word for a staff, right? It's like, okay, here we go. We're going to look at the data. And then people start to get all sorts of feels. So we've really tried to lean into the data this year and really look at a lot of different data so that they don't get all the feels and people aren't feeling so scary about data so that we can make more data-driven decisions. So this allows us to look at what academic interventions and supports we need and where we need them in order to close the opportunity gap. So in the way that we talk about all students and all means all, we also are working collectively as a staff and talking about like all staff have to do this work together collectively to ensure that we're doing the same work. We can't have it happen in pockets around the school. We're all working together to make this happen. Tammy's going to talk a bit more about what this work looks like, but that's something that we are really focused on this year. Again, keep in mind, 2021, not a full school year, so that data looks a little bit different. But then when we look at it, for the most part, there's some spots, but for the most part, our data is improving and increasing as it relates to our learning standards in English and math within our subpopulations. But it also shows we still have work to do. And we have disparity gaps to close, especially with our students with IEPs. So JT will talk a bit about that and this is the work, and this is the data that we use to define the work and know, are we doing the right work? So I've got one more slide and I'm going to turn it over. This one is kind of a beefy one, and this is a Washington School Improvement Framework. And how this works is that it's a 3-year run. So this is our data that has been compiled over so it's looking at 3 years of cohorts. And so it starts to look, this allows us to see trend data and then how we align with a decile score, and how we get to the decile score is based on how other schools across the state, other students across the state are doing. And so this is the work that we look at to know. So when you look at the kind of the 3-year period or the 3-year run, as OSPI calls it, when you look at like the ELA proficiency rate, if you look at that all students and it sits at 81.5%, that is the students over three sophomore classes, basically, that have taken that assessment, the SBA assessment. So that is the percentage of students of all of those sophomores for all 3 years. So that's how that is. So they've passed, that's looking at that, those students, like I said, that get a 3 or a 4 and have met proficiency. So then OSPI takes these percentages and they put them in that decile score, which is down below where you see 0 is white, and then across the bottom 10 is in blue, and you can kind of see it's orange and it goes light blue to dark blue. And that's based on across the state, and how students do is how then you figure out how are we doing comparatively to our students who are in the same grade level across the state. And this is how we determine as a school if we are, how we're doing, but also if we're foundational or if we need different tiered supports. We are in a foundational year, so we don't have any, the state hasn't come to say, hey, Ridgefield High School, we need to come in and intervene. And so we have work to do for sure, and I'll talk a bit about that. But we are at a foundational level, which is a great thing. So that doesn't mean we're going to stop working. we're going to keep on keeping on. So we're not resting on our laurels, so to speak. So the blank data spots you'll see, you're going, okay, what about the subgroups where you've got blank spots and there's no percentages and no colors? What that means is that we have less than 20 students in that area over those 3-year runs. And so there isn't enough for them to compile that longitudinal data. So, and then down the left side, we've talked about that ELA proficiency rate, that 3 or 4 on the SBA, same with math. We aren't ever going to have the ELA medium. SGP is the student growth percentage. We're not going to have that, nor the math, because at the high school level, we only give the SBA as for sophomore year. So we don't have a comparative within the high school because they're just taking it once in their high school career as sophomores. So we aren't going to see a growth percentage like they would like in elementary school when they give it multiple times. Within a student's elementary career, you're going to see a percentage of growth there. So our graduation rate is based on the percentage of students who graduate on time. That's a 4-year on-time graduation rate. And then our EL progress rate is the percentage of students who take the WIDA assessment and then they show that they have made enough progress to transition out within 6 years. That's kind of the marker, the demarcation for that. So again, we have less than 20 students who took that during the last 3-year run. So there's no data there to compare. But as we grow, I assume that number will also, that we will soon have some data there. Our regular attendance rates, we've got some work to do in this area. We can see a lot of orange here. The regular attendance are students who are attending 90% of their classes and have good regular attendance. The reverse of that is a chronic absenteeism, and that means a student is missing 3 periods or more, and they're chronically absent if they're missing 10% of their school year. So we have 180 days. You can look at that as like two days a month. You can look at that as 9 days a semester, 18 days in a year. You can kind of break it down in different ways, but that's how the state looks at chronic absenteeism. We have a 6-period day. And so if a student misses 3 periods or more, then that counts as actually a full day. And it's looking at excused and unexcused absences. So it's looking at all attendance in order to get a regular attendance rate versus the chronic absenteeism, which JT will talk more about. And then our 9th grade on track rate, that is determined by our freshman students passing all 6 of their classes and earning their high school credit their freshman year. And that's an important thing to look at because it's freshman year, really looking at math and English specifically, but that's where you start to see if we like look at students who have dropped out, not just with us, but I mean across the nation, that you can start to peel back and see a lot of it started in grade 9 in those early years. And so we look at really what is that on track rate? That's a really good indicator for freshmen. And then our dual credit, lastly, this is one where I think if I were a betting lady, I would say we're going to have a big increase in this because we've really done a lot of work with the help of Tiffany Gould, our CTE director. Tammy Hoodenpile has done a bunch of this work, Joni Jaquinto, with really looking at dual credit. So it is the percentage of students who complete a course in dual credit, which includes AP, college and the high school, CTE, dual credit classes, and then running start. So we used to just have pre-calculus as college and the high school. We've added advanced theater and CTE. We had nothing, and now we've added welding, foods 3, baking and pastry, graphic design, human body systems. So you can see we went from no classes with dual credit to all of those classes. So our next 3-year run, the data is going to look really different. And then AP classes. When I started, we had 11. We're now up to 15 different AP offerings. So we've also, as we've grown and our student body has grown, we've been able to add different courses. And then we have a number of courses in these past 3 years that I think we have more people who are wanting to add more in the next, that may fit our next run. Sorry about that. So we're continuing to work at this. So this is something that you're going to look and go, okay, there's a lot of orange there. Why is that not in their school improvement plan? And it's because it's not our highest area of need, because there's already a lot of work. It just hasn't shown up. We have to have another 3-year run to catch up with it, if that makes sense. But we look at this data and we go, okay, the bright orange is the highest area of need where we need to put some focus. So that's kind of how we look at this data and determine what are we going to do with it and what changes and things do we need to make. So I'm going to turn it over so you guys can hear about all that good stuff that we're working on. And I'm going to turn it over to JT.
Thank you, Kristen. I'm gonna lift this up about 7 inches. Okay. All right. I tried to be. Yeah, so what Kristen was getting into a little bit around attendance, and that is something I think it's pretty easy to agree as a community that in order for us to meet the academic needs of students, they need to be in the seats. It's really difficult to teach. We learned that from COVID, right? We learned something from COVID. It's really hard to teach you when you're at home, and that didn't work. And as you see in attendance, we don't have attendance data for the times of the COVID years or 2021 where it was split. And so when we look at this, we already defined what regular and chronic absenteeism is, but in the last couple of years, we really dug into this data and we started asking ourselves why, right? Why did we suddenly see this shift after COVID where absenteeism, chronic absenteeism increased so much? And there's a number of reasons. We try to tackle the why. Why do students feel like they don't need to come to school? Why aren't they coming to school? And there's a vast number of reasons, right? But we know that data exists, so we had to do something. So we started last year, and one of our major initiatives that we put into place was communication of the value of being at school. And that started first and foremost with saying, what is an excused absence and what is not an excused absence? And we learned that we were kind of communicating that it wasn't that important by excusing the absences for reasons that the state did not even approve. So we went back and said, we're going to go with what OSPI says is an excused absence, and that's an excused absence. And it was difficult. We had to talk to a lot of people and have a lot of difficult conversations. But the first thing we did was say, listen, we need you here, right? And so this is what we're going to excuse. And by saying that, we're saying that we value you being in the seat and learning every single day. Now we don't have data for 23, 24, right? But we're not going to do this work and not collect our own data. So I'm not going to give you any numbers because I don't want it to be wrong. And then OSBI comes out with something that's 2% off. You're like, you lied to us. So I'm just going to tell you some roundabout estimates. We kept data every single month last year because we started this work. We need to know, is the work we're doing working, right? Is this helping, right? Is this message we're giving to the community, a message we're giving to students about the importance of being in school, is it working? On average, last year, we saw anywhere from a 5 to a 15% decrease in chronic absenteeism every single month last year. So we sat back and said, it's working. We're not where we want to be yet. I'm not going to say that we're okay, we can stop doing the work and they have the message and they're all going to show up, because they're still not showing up for various reasons. And we're going to talk about some different ways that we're going to tackle individual subgroups of students and individual students themselves. But we want to highlight that work that we're doing, that we are focusing on that. Next slide. So once again, similar to the academic assessment data that Kristen was talking about, this slide shows an overall before COVID, after COVID. This is something that everybody in the country, I think, is looking at. What happened before COVID? What happened after COVID, right? We know that COVID had an impact, and we know that we're all climbing back. I think every district in the state, in the country, is climbing back from this right now, right? So we know that. But I like to go to this one and say, let's look at everything since then, right? So the same with the academic data. Let's put that in the rear view mirror, and let's talk about what's going on right now and where we're going from here. So we look at attendance from 2020 to 2020 or to now. We see that first column once again. That's our first year back from COVID. I think that was actually a lot of excitement to get back to school. You see those numbers, like the kids like, yes, we're back. Parents like, yes, they're out, right? Get them out, get them there. Great numbers at that point. It was also we were only in person, I think half the year, around that, right? And so it wasn't a full year. So those numbers, in my opinion, and our opinion as a team, are a little bit skewed. So then we look to our first full year back, that's 2021, 22 and beyond. And we start to see like, wow, look at those numbers. And the highlight of this slide and why we look at this, as Kristen's already mentioned, we look at these subgroups. And this is really important for us because if we have to know, why is a certain group of students, in this case, we look at the middle one, low income, why is there chronic absenteeism last year almost 10% higher than the rest of the students. Because if we're going to tackle this as a whole school, we can't provide interventions for a whole school and we have a certain group of students that are struggling more than others. So it's so important that we identify this disparity gap and we say we need to close this. Say, well, how do you close that? What barriers does that group of students have that the rest of them do not? And I'm sure we can sit here and we can probably name them off. We've been in meetings and we talk about this all the time. We start listing things. What are the barriers? What are the barriers? What are the barriers? Right? So our goals are to tackle those barriers. You're going to hear Lindsay come up and talk about this MTSS system we're putting in to address the academic interventions for students. We can't do that if they're not here. So we need to make sure first that we tackle this and get them in school. I do believe that most students want to be here, but there's barriers that stop them from getting here sometimes. There's a whole bunch of them. And so that's what we look at that and go, how do we tackle those? We also look at the students with IEPs. Those are students that are receiving special education services for any reason. We said that number is 9.3% of our population, about 121 kids, right? They're receiving services. Why are they not coming to school as much as everybody else? Right? Why is 7% higher chronic absenteeism? Why is having an IEP not making you not come to school more than the average student? We have to ask ourselves that. So when we see those disparity gaps, that allows us to target those specific groups to get that number up. Because if we're gonna, and if you go back to that academic data, our students that are receiving special education services, the disparity gap of those that are meeting standards in the state assessment is huge. So we have a massive, I'll talk more a little bit later in today's presentation about how we are addressing that as a whole entire department, special education services. We identify those. One of the resources that we have, that we are so grateful to have, we have a graduation coach in our leadership, graduation and advocate, Stacey Barlow. And one of the things that she does, when we look at this, is we identify students and we want to be preventative, right? So we see a trend starting with students. She has a process, a systematic approach to be able to get those students into her office, starting off with a form. It's a very simple form. It's a questionnaire about you. How do you feel about school? What are the barriers? We try to first have a conversation, establish a relationship, a positive adult in the building, right, that person can come to, and then find out what are the barriers. Because before we can take away the barriers, we have to do what? Find out what the barriers are. Right? Well, they may all fall into one category. The barriers in which each of them have are going to be different. So it's important to address each one individually. So it starts with that. Then we start with a plan. Maybe it's a home visit. Maybe it's a wraparound meeting with the teachers and the parents and the student, right? If that doesn't improve, we continue to increase the supports. And once they reach the point of chronic absenteeism, then we even can go to our local resources, our ESD 112, and they can provide resources as well. They actually do counseling to families too. Because we have some families we call and we say, how come we can't I don't know. I can't get them out of bed. I'm trying, I'm doing everything I possibly can. Right? I can't get them there. And so there are resources that we can connect them with to help family counseling as well, to give the parents support to get the kids to school. But we all agree, I think, that in order for us to close the academic gaps, we've got to get the kids to school. So this is a big focus of ours. We're working really hard as a team. Stacey has been fantastic, and I think these numbers are going to change just because of her. I think there's a whole team approach to this, but I think that one individual is going to have a huge impact on that. Next, we're going to look at our first goal. So you've heard a lot of data, right? Where we're at, right? We look at all the data. Now it's like, okay, now we know where we're at. What are we going to do? So Lindsay's going to start with that.
All right, so I'm going to talk about the MTSS system. But first, I just wanted to say the implementation of a multi-tiered system of supports at a comprehensive high school is somewhat challenging and hard to do to fidelity. So we have a lot of work ahead of us. So this is a large endeavor that is going to be a long-term plan that we've kind of set out. So we started with a school improvement team. We've had a school improvement team since I've been there. And it was more or less a department team. And we have transitioned that into a guiding coalition. So we had a group of 4 people, myself, 2 counselors, and the school psychologist, attend an RTI, or response to intervention at work, conference last fall. And from that, we really were committed to putting out a 1-year, 3-year, and 5-year plan for our staff on how we were going to implement the multi-tiered system of supports. So in year one, which is this year, we're focusing on access to essential grade level standards, both behavioral and academic, for all students. So for this goal, the focus really is on the behavioral essential standards. So by the end of 2024-2025 school year, the Guiding Coalition team will develop a tier 1 behavioral system using a multi-tiered system of supports. All staff will guide, implement, and modify the system for all students to improve school-wide behavior. So I've told this story to a few people before, but last year, the admin team is out at lunch duty every day. And every day last year, I think I said to myself, why are there kids running across the cafeteria? Why? They're always running. And we're always saying, stop running, stop running, stop running. And it got to the point where I started thinking, like, we've actually never taught them that they're not supposed to run across. We just assumed that, you know, when you get to high school that you don't run around in the cafeteria. So that was sort of like the beginning of what we started to think about with the tier 1 behavioral system is how can the students know what to do if we haven't explicitly taught them what they're supposed to do. So really the motto of our team became, how are we going to predict and prevent behaviors rather than react and respond to them. So this led our team really to look at referral data from the 23-24 school year. And there was some lack of consistency amongst staff and how people were writing referrals, the times at which they were writing them, which wasn't consistent when it actually happened, what category they were choosing, et cetera. And we started asking ourselves some questions of where are most of the offenses occurring, what are the most common offenses, and what time of the year do the referrals spike at our school. So we had the staff write down at the end of the year the most challenging behaviors that they were seeing in various parts of the school that they oversaw, and then identify the behaviors that they expected the students to see in those various areas. So with that, the Guiding Coalition built expectation posters similar to like a PBIS strategy at the elementary and middle school for every part of our school. And with that, we were predicting the behaviors that we wanted to see out of our students in hopes that we were preventing the negative behaviors. And then at the beginning of the year, we had each department, so the math department, science department, they each picked one of the posters and they created a video for the students on what the expectations shouldn't look like and what they should look like. And we presented that in the first 2 weeks of the school year. And I think that was a hit because I think the kids got to see their students in a different light. Many of them, they didn't know that those were going to be their teachers or they hadn't met them before, but I think it was an easier way to present them than to just tell them what our expectations were. In addition to that, we also agreed upon a school-wide cell phone policy, which was that every student would come into the classroom and put their cell phone in the cell phone pocket when they entered, and they would take their cell phone as they left. As well as a bathroom policy where we're trying to minimize the amount of bathroom disruptions throughout a class period and maximize the amount of class time that students are utilizing. So with that data from last year, we also knew that behaviors spike in October. So we intentionally retaught those expectations in October, knowing that that was going to be a time in which we knew the referrals would be spiking. Do you have the clicker, Jeremy? Oh, it's right here. Just kidding. Sorry, I didn't think you did, but so I know I like numbers and everyone probably knows that here. So I'm going to give some data of some of the data that we have found in comparison to last year at this time. So really what the Guiding Coalition has tried to do this year is to present data in various forms at various times to really get our staff to be used to looking at data. So whether it's behavioral data or today they looked at academic behavior for students in their classes, we're really trying to make it so it's less scary and more a part of our practice. So we currently have right now in the system a total of 131 referrals compared to 208 last year at this time. So we've seen a 37% decrease in referrals. One specific area we've always struggled with at the high school is bathrooms. That tends to be an area where there is drug use, the delivery or sale of drugs, fights, et cetera. So that is an area that we were targeting because that is a high needs area. We think the things that we put into place and limiting bathroom usage, not allowing cell phones outside of the classroom has helped, but we have seen a drop in bathroom referrals by 41%. So hopefully that is I mean, we think that that is helping. Our October referrals also this year dropped by 42% in comparison to last year. So clearly, perhaps the reteaching is what we want to believe worked, but with all good data is not so great data. Our number of referrals spiked in November. So we have some work to do there. Maybe we have to reteach every month, but that's okay. And the last piece of data that I think is really awesome is that last year, our ninth graders accounted for 36% of all referrals at the school. And this year as 10th graders, they are down to 19%. On the flip side of that, our current 11th graders, they went from 36% of our referrals up to 42%. So myself, I oversee 11th grade discipline, and Monica DeShazer, who is the counselor for 11th grade, we have some work to do with those students and families to try and figure out kind of what's the root of that problem, because clearly their behaviors have not decreased really over time. Overall, the development of the tier 1 behavioral system has allowed our team and our school to find the areas of success and the areas to improve using data as our guide. We're currently in the process of revamping our SPUD time, hoping to make that 30 minutes 4 times a week be much more productive than what we have surveyed and looked at in our drop-ins thus far this year. And just today, we presented data to staff on students who are struggling and how best we can help them get to passing before winter break, with the hopes that every one of those students that's not passing will be will be talked to by, in my brain it came out different, will be talked to by a staff member. It doesn't even just have to be a teacher, it could be a support personnel, admin, counselors. The entire school really is working hard to get to those students who are not passing and find the barriers in hopes that they can turn that around and be successful. Next.
Yes. So as it's an introduction to this MTSS behavioral supports, and we're going to shift into some MTSS academic supports as well. Right in between, we're going to stop and talk a little bit about this very special population of our school, those receiving special education services. I oftentimes talk about this amongst my family and friends, and I think that everybody has a different view of students that are receiving special education services. So I want to give you a little bit of this is, the average student that's receiving services is going to class like every other student. And they just need a little bit of modifications in what they're doing. There's a learning disability there, a diagnosed learning disability. They just need a little bit of an adjustment, right? They need some work modified. Maybe instead of giving them 50 math problems, right, they only need 20. Okay, because they just can't sustain that long of an academic rigor, right? And so we just want to make sure that we accommodate. So we're actually removing the disability from being able to determine if they're meeting the standards. And so that's an average student. It's just a little bit of a shift, a little bit of a change, right? But we notice that when we look at our data, that those students, even with the apparent modifications and accommodations, are not achieving the same as the rest of our students. There are huge disparity gaps in those academic achievements. So we have to look at that. I oversee special education in our building, and I have an amazing team, right? I'm like the low man on the totem pole in ability, and they just teach me every day, and I'm just trying to support them as best I can. But we have some fantastic teachers, and they dig into this data constantly, and they're digging into each individual student. If they're coming to me asking me for things, and I'm like, if I had millions of dollars, I'd give you everything you ask for, right? But we got to go with what we have. But it's the work and the effort that they put in each day for these kids that makes a difference. So some of the things that we as a team looked at, said, what can we do as a team in our building? First and foremost, we thought about our IEP meetings. We started looking at some data within teacher attendance. And I'll be honest and open, it was not good. We started to realize that wasn't there. Kind of similar though to what Lindsay had said about, we have an expectation, but did we ever teach it, right? And so we started the year off with a heavy emphasis on, you need to be there and why. That every single teacher that these students have something to say about these students that are in these that have these IEPs. Every single one of you, whether it's PE or a core class of English and math, doesn't matter. We need to hear what's working and what's not, what combinations are working and what's not. So we had a heavy emphasis on that. We also taught them, when you come to these meetings, what is the most important information you can present at these meetings that's going to be effective in helping us to develop a critical and effective plan for these students. Okay, that was one of them. The next thing that we looked into was, we also found that while we have, if we look at our mission, every student will learn at grade level, right? The way that they do that is they have to be at a grade level course. One of the great things that Kristen Palmer did when she came to this school 8 years ago was institute co-teaching model at this school, which put every single student in a grade level math and a grade level English class, right? That was essential. You can't learn at grade level if you're not in a grade level course, right? And so thank her for that. Thank you, Kristen, for doing that. But when we saw that, though, we still saw some problems, right? And one of the problems that we saw was that now when students are going out, and if you don't know what a co-taught class, by the way, is, it's an English class that's going to have a general education English teacher in there and a special education teacher in there, co-teaching English together, right? So serving the special design instruction for those students in that, but also serving all students. You ask our average student, they're like, oh, I thought they were just both English teachers. They don't know. And that's the goal, right? They don't know. It's co-taught together, right? But we're serving those students' needs. What we saw, though, is that when these students went out into science and social studies, so imagine students who struggle with reading and writing, and then they jump into a science and social studies class, and social studies class are extremely heavy reading courses, right? So we saw that they would be successful in the English classes, but they go out into social studies and they're having some difficulties. There's a ton of reading, and it's not at grade level. It's oftentimes at grade level or higher, but their reading level is really low, right? So now they're being affected by their ability to read, not their ability to actually meet social studies standards. So we wanted to remove that. In science, there's a lot of math oftentimes and reading, but a lot of math as well. So if a student is struggling in math and has math goals, but they're going to science, they're not getting the same accommodations oftentimes they do in their co-taught math class. So how do we fix that? The teachers are doing everything they possibly can. They're doing everything they know how to do. So the idea we piloted last year, and we're moving more into it this year, is we're taking some of our special education teachers and we're pushing them. They're working side by side. I don't want to say pushing them. They're working side by side in the classroom with our social studies and math and social studies and science teachers on a rotating basis to coach them on how to modify the work and provide the accommodations. Our goal is not that they're doing all the work for the teacher, general education teacher, but that they are building capacity within each of our general education teachers so that those teachers then understand better how to modify the work forevermore. So we're doing that work to train them and help them to do that. Because who are the experts in the building on doing that? Our special education teachers. So we're keeping them in that general education environment, but pushing them in to help them. The other thing that we are doing, we're growing. We all know that, right? We talk about all the time. We're growing. As you grow, one of the things that we've noticed the last couple of years in our special education department is that we have these students that are kind of floating in the middle of programs, right? And right now we have what we call resource students, right? They're students who are not in a self-contained classroom. They're 100% all day long general education classes, but they're receiving modifications, accommodations according to their IEP. And then we have students in a self-contained classroom, right? And these are students, it's a life skills classroom. The goals of those programs, of that particular program, is to create a student who is as independent as possible when they leave, right? And to need as little care as they possibly can. That's their goals, right? Some of them are going to achieve independence. Some of them are not going to achieve independence, but we want them to be able to take care of themselves as best they can, right? Well, what we noticed is that we have these students that are kind of in between. And so we're reevaluating our programs constantly to go, do we need to expand programs? Do we need to split programs? Do we need to divide programs up? Because we're finding that there's students that they're right in the middle, right? They need these intensive needs, but they're not quite in this program. So we're constantly evaluating the programs that we have and expanding our programs or splitting our programs specifically to meet the needs of the students in our building. So they're driving those decisions for us. And as we grow, that's a little bit easier to do. The last thing I want to talk about with special education is this. When we have students in our general education co-taught English and math classes, we realize that they're learning at grade level. However, when we talk about MTSS supports, we'll see that there are a very small percentage of students that have extremely large learning gaps, meaning that they may be reading at a 1st through 3rd grade level, but they're with us in high school, right? We have students that you can say, we're going to put you in algebra because that's a graduation requirement and we're going to co-teach it, but they don't have the skills to be successful in algebra. They can say, we're going to teach you at grade level, but there's so many skills they're lacking. So how do we keep them at grade level but still go backfill those? And we're talking about like having to make 2 to 3 years of gains of progress in a year. So along with that, we identify the students that have those gaps. We have math support classes. So a student might take an algebra class at grade level, but then they're also going to have a math support class. And that math support class is going to reinforce the algebra they're learning, but at the same time, they're going to backfill all kinds of multiplication skills, division skills, all those skills they come in lacking, hopefully build up that foundation. So by the time they get to geometry or the next classes, now they have the skills to actually learn at grade level without that support. We do the same thing in English classes. When students are reading at a 1st through 3rd grade level, last year we piloted this. This is coming from our special education teachers. We piloted this and we said, let's start a reading intervention class, right? They're still in English class at grade level, but then they go to intensive reading intervention class, a very small number of students. I just want to highlight, there was 3 students in particular that when they came into that in January, end of January, early February last year, with Kathy Santiago as our teacher in that class, she tested them and evaluated them, and they were reading between a 1st and 3rd grade level. By the time those 3 students finished in June, they were reading at 6th grade level. So 3 years of progress in 1 semester. That shows that it works, right? So now we get them up. They're not at 9th grade level yet, but now they can go in with confidence into their 10th grade English class, right? And at least they're reading at a level where they can take the text and not have to modify it as much. So I'm really excited. It's not just me. It's not me at all. I think it's my team. I have fantastic teachers in our building, the special education department, fantastic paras, but there's a lot of work being done with this particular group because the disparity gaps, as you've seen in the data, is pretty big, and we're going to close those gaps. I can't go to.
Right. Whoops, sorry. Hi, everyone. So our next school improvement goal is really focuses on the essential element of teaching and learning, which is collaboration. So teacher collaboration is what we're focusing on here. We've been doing this work for some time, for a few years now, but this year we're getting really, really clear, really intentional, and we are refining and reviewing our process so we can get better at this collaboration. So by the end of the year, our goal states that all professional learning teams will have completed a data cycle for an essential standard that will ensure every student meets or exceeds proficiency for that standard this year. We have many things that we're doing to support this goal. What we have started with this year is we ask staff to share their learnings as they are going through this process, and they are presenting their work in staff meetings to the rest of us. So they're sharing their data, they're learning what's working, what's not working, and how they're doing that work, so we can all learn with them. This allows us to deprivatize our practice and really get more ideas from our colleagues and become resources for each other. Many of the PLTs are using data to provide interventions. We have an example of that. We have our grade 10 ELA team is in collaboration. They're looking at common formative assessments, and this specific one is on claim evidence and reasoning. So they're getting together, they're determining what interventions are needed for all of those students. And instead of one teacher doing all of those interventions, they break that work up. And so whatever student needs support writing their claim,
then one teacher will take those students. In another room, another teacher will help students with contextual evidence. In the third room, they'll have students working on reasoning. So by using this collaboration and planning, teachers can be really more specific on and timely on their interventions. This year, teachers were also challenged to make their subgroup for their student growth goal one area that we needed to focus on for improvement based on the WISIF data. So all of those areas that you saw Kristen explain about, where we saw patterns or gaps, such as students with IEPs, the Hispanic Latino, low income students, we are really becoming intentionally providing focus to those groups to close those gaps. There we go. So this key initiative, this focus on professional learning teams, has many elements to kind of support it. And one area that we are really being very intentional on is training our staff. And so to date, we have 24 certificated staff trained on the professional learning community model, or some have also gone to the MTS model training. And we have plans also to continue that work from year to year and really focus on giving staff those tools that they need to be successful and to do this work. We also now have a really strong guiding coalition, and we've heard Kristen talk a little bit about that. We have teachers leading teachers in the PLT work, guiding teams as they learn to use the framework right along with the other teachers. And they're also doing all of that training for our teachers and staff at Tri-Days. We're also focusing on paring down those essential standards and in all of our content areas to ensure that we teach the most important standards at the depth that all students can reach mastery. And teachers are developing that work now collaboratively in teams, and they're not in silos. So it helps them also to align content across their area in the same subject area. We are also having our PLTs align their agendas with the 4 PLC questions, which guides the collaborative work so that teams can track their own data and how they are working, how things may or may not be working, but they can look back on those agendas and see where they're spending the most time in that PLC cycle and making sure that they're doing the right work. We're also moving that work forward by really being able to have courageous conversations sometimes when needed. So we can be very specific and timely on feedback to our staff and align the work across the entire building so everyone's on the same page moving forward. And all teams are using their data from their PLT work to determine specific interventions during spend time. This is a really great example of that work. So here you see a lot of pictures of teams working together, and you're going to see very traditional PLT teams, such as content teams like English 10 or physical science. But there are also very non-traditional teams that would have been singleton teams if not, had they not come together here, such as CTE. Also here is a vertical alignment team from the high school and the middle school. And they're working together on single content, but aligning across grade levels. So our teams are doing amazing work, and they're really led by a passionate guiding coalition. And we think that by intentionally focusing on these goals that we're going to see our gaps begin to close. And for those populations that we've identified from our data. So thank you very much, and I'll open it up to questions.
Question on attendance. I think it's the component that probably stands out the most to me. If attendance is on the rise, proficiency scores are likely going to rise. Students are going to get more attention. I see OSPI's data is yet to come, but if you could arm us as a board with one data point, talk track, update that we could talk about, as this is a topic we hear from people often on, I'd love to hear your insight as to just something we can share that's been happening or is coming next semester that we can share on behalf of the board and talk to people about attendance.
So you're asking about like, where is our data now, or just things that we're continuing to do?
Initiatives we're working on, things that are going in the right direction.
Yeah, I think the biggest initiative we're working on, I mean, the communication about what is an excuse versus a non-excuse absence was a big one. I think that sent a message and allowed us to have some conversations around, you know, like why is this not excused? This is important to our family. Hawaii is important in December. I understand that, right? But that communication was communicating to the community that we value your students being in school. And so that's where we saw the changes. And I wasn't going to give our numbers because we always feel like OSPI is a little bit off. I don't know what they're doing different than us. I'm the one pulling the data, so I'll own it. But we definitely did see, we were at 52%? I think it was 50, was it 52% chronic absenteeism 2 years ago? 52, maybe 57. By the time we hit spring last year, that number was down below 40. So I say that, right? And that's what we're polling. I hope that number shows in our OSPI data as well. Even if it's down, it's gonna be good. But I also think, Jake, great question. And I do think that in the last few years since I've been here, I know we've struggled to have a systematic approach to addressing chronic absenteeism on an individual basis. We struggled with that. And this is something that I think having this advocate in our building, this graduation coach advocate in our building, Stacey Barlow, and she is working really hard right now to create a caseload of students to be able to start having those conversations individually and finding out the why in order to remove those barriers. So if you want to be able to share what's happening, I think highlighting what Stacey's doing and how she's having individual meetings, and then where she'll be working. I mean, this is going to get to the point where we might be knocking on doors, right? That's what we're gonna have to do. We're gonna have to have home visits, right? We're gonna have to go in and sit down. And we hope that we don't get to the point where chronic absenteeism is causing us to involve ESD 112, but they do have programs for family counseling that we can access. It may just be her connecting them to the resources. Like I said before, there's some parents that struggle with this. How do I get my kid out of bed? You know, they're fighting me. It's a battle at home, and we have a lot of those. And so I think it's her being able to connect them to the resources. So having a point person in charge of that to really pay attention to that is, I think, what you can share with the community what we're doing. Does that help? Okay.
We need a quieter microphone so it's not so obvious how short I am. So JT's right. The work that Stacey's doing, we're also in the same way that what Lindsay has talked about and Tammy has talked about, and kind of a theme that we have is systematizing everything. And so getting clear on what happens at 3 days, what happens at 5 days, what happens at 7 days, what happens at 9 days, and what does that communication look like? Because it can't be the same for every single one. What are we doing to differentiate? Who's stepping in, who's the wraparound, and just tracking that data. And so looking at a spreadsheet and like literally like assigning, right? It's academic data, but it's also looking at attendance. It's looking by program level. Lindsay and JT both are data whizzes that I am not, and they're teaching me, I'm learning a lot about different ways to disaggregate data, but that is part of it, is literally then assigning, right? Who's the person that's going to be the point person for this student? And it's like student by student, like figuring it all out, like JT said. We're also using, OSPI has an attendance toolbox full of resources. And so like one of the things that we have not done, I've been sending stuff out and communicating a lot about attendance over the last couple years, and our attendance rates are getting better with the work that we're doing. But she is bringing some new ideas, and she is meeting with partners at ESD 112 and going, have you tried this? Have you tried this? And so we're looking at different ways. And so like one went out prior to Thanksgiving that was like, hey, happy holidays. Here are some tips and tricks for attendance. It's really important. And just a different way other than my parent newsletter or other than the things that we've been communicating out. So she's really getting connected with a different resources, because I think we got to communicate in different ways to different people and say it over and over in a lot of different ways and find people's communication style that works for them. So yeah, I just wanted to add on to what JT said. You can share that.
I want to jump in real quick on that, just because I read something that today that went out that was like, if your kid's sick, stay home. And so, you know, I think the attendance thing is, I agree 100% on your path, but it can be confusing to parents when it's like, we need them here. We're not going to excuse that, but here's a whole laundry list. If they're feeling any of these things, keep them home because they're going to get everybody else sick. So that was just, you know, I mean, that is going to be a fight that you're going to be fighting a little bit.
I'm glad you brought that up, Brett, because it's true. And I think that's why we've talked about the importance of attendance so much, is because we know that stuff is going to come up, right? Your kids are going to get ill and they're going to need to stay home. And so how can we make sure that otherwise we're protecting and preserving those academic days so that when those things come along, it's not absence number 19, 20, 30, 35. The students that we're seeing that are really battling the chronic absenteeism, for the most part, it's not illness. Our issue is far more excused absences for a lot of different things that people really value. But it's taking away from the opportunity to learn. And it's not that those aren't valuable, but we're really trying to work with families to say, how do we look at our school calendar that gets published really, really early and look at where are those days where we have long weekends or we have this or that? How can we capitalize on that? And, you know, just trying to really, because we also understand there are really important things in life. And so we're trying to, you know, be really mindful about it too and be reasonable, because we do know that we don't want kids coming that are really, really ill and have fevers. And then the next thing you know, we've got a huge case of pneumonia or pertussis or whatever. And that's not keeping anybody in school more, right? It's taking people out longer. So it's finding that balance, right? You're right. It's a really tough one. I struggle with it myself. My kiddo is not feeling well. And it was the conversation in our house this morning. So I'm in it too, you all. It's not easy.
Just thank you all for all of that information. I am a slow internal processor. I'll probably have 10 questions tomorrow. And I'll email you if I do.
Great.
But a couple
Jeremy.tortora
Yes, I know,
at
I know how to find you.
I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding.
All Jeremy.
I'm totally
okay.
kidding.
But I feel like this has maybe come up in conversation before, Kristen, but question that sort of rises for me listening to all of the strategizing that you all are doing, taking numbers and data and trying to figure out like, what could we do to help move these in the direction that we'd like to see them, and progress is being made. And that's really beautiful to see, because I know nothing is a quick fix with people. And so I'm just curious, as you are starting a deeper dive into some of these numbers, how have you, or where are you asking students or families to look at that with you? Is that happening yet? I'm curious because sometimes they may have an idea or an aha that would be really helpful. And I'm just curious where that's fitting in, if it's fitting in. And I think we just, I'll share this. We're going to share a little bit more in our updates, but just came back from the school board directors conference, and pretty much every conversation was around engaging different people within our school community in problem solving. So I'm just curious, like how that's shown up, if how.
Yeah, great question. Tammy actually just did a kind of a walk through our school improvement plan and our WISIF data with boosters, so she can speak a little bit more. And that's our parent group that represents, it has parents on that represent their students are in a variety of different things at and all different grade levels. So that's kind of a nice sampling, because it really is their a diverse group when you look at who their students are. And some of them are first-time high school parents, and some of them have had multiple students come through. So she did a school improvement presentation with the boosters group to get that parent feedback. And they had some good questions specifically around math and kind of our math scores, and kind of asking questions about that. So she can talk more. She would be the point of contact for that one. I would say the parent group, I was just with Erica's, with Erica Muir and our multilingual parents, and Stephanie and Todd were there, and some others, and kind of talking about how we can be better connected with our families who speak another language at home, and maybe even how that communication looks, so we can engage with them and talk a little bit more. But it was really incredible to hear. And I came back from that meeting and went, oh my gosh, here's how we need to connect differently, because they gave me some great feedback of how I can be a better principal to help share with them and partner with them about what we're doing. And then I reached out to a team when I got back and said, hey, specifically, here's a student in this and that, and can you reach out to this parent? And the team was like, here are the things that we're doing. And it's like, oh my gosh, yes, reach out to that parent, because we need to make that connection. And so it's actually putting ourselves in the different spaces of our community members and understanding what it is and where there is a disconnect, I think, as well. And I'll be honest, I'll own that. I started that when I came here. I started principal talk times, and I did that for the first couple of years I was here, and offered and went to different locations around town, because I know not everybody wants to come to the school to meet, depending on what their school experience was, right? So I would go and host different principal talk times, and I stopped doing those because I realized it was kind of the same people that were showing up, and it was becoming a conversation that it was like, I don't know, I'm not getting to the right groups. I'm seeing the same, and it's great and it's awesome to catch up, but it's not getting what we need. And I haven't, and then COVID hit, and I haven't, to be honest, done a really great job at that since then. So that's an area that I think we can probably do a much better job in figuring out how to share the data in bite size, because no one wants to sit through this. Like, I don't know, right? I couldn't sit down an entire parent group for 1,300 students and be like, okay, here we go, y'all. You in for an hour and a half? Let's do this. I mean, right? And so how do we do bite-sized bits and share that out? So I'm open to, I think we as a team are open to growing and learning and figuring out what works best. So if you're coming back from a training with good ideas, like, please share. Yeah, great. Thanks for that question, Amber.
So I think no other questions. Okay. Comment. I like the PLT. I mean, I think your presentation was great. Not boring. Very good. Yes. So, but with the PLT, what I resonate with that is the saying, like, steel sharpens steel.
Yeah.
Right. So, I can put my hands on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like teacher teaching teacher, steel sharpening steel, right? And so I that one, like, I like that. Appreciate that. So that's my comment.
Thanks, Brad.
Before we move to the next report, I just really want to applaud your team. Thank you. Wonderful presentation. I took a lot of notes, so I'll follow up because I know you like feedback.
I do.
But I just really want to applaud the work in closing gaps and the attention and the explicit conversation about that tonight and the work that you guys have been doing. You know, you have closed gaps in absenteeism in every single subgroup and eliminated it in the racial category between our Latinx students and our white students. And that is just a huge accomplishment that speaks to both your leadership and the hard work of your staff, and not just your teachers, but your attendance secretary,
Yes.
right? Who's making the calls every
Absolutely.
day, like to everyone. That's just a huge achievement, a significant reduction in your gap in English language arts proficiency by our Hispanic and Latinx students. Again, that doesn't happen on its own. It's not magic sauce. It's a whole lot of hard work. The decrease in discipline referrals today is phenomenal. I mean, to cut that in a third is just fantastic. And that means that teachers are getting to teach, which is the thing sometimes we hear about with student discipline is I can't get to teaching because I'm disciplining. And so having that systemic approach really does help teachers to move from playing the whack-a-mole game and really thinking about, I loved your story that you shared about just this, like, have we taught the kids not to run in the cafeteria? We think that they should know that. They don't, right? So that was such a great example that you shared. The PLC work, and I appreciated you calling that out, President Jones. We're really excited about that at a district level. We have implemented this year our own principal and assistant principal PLCs. And so we're working through that together, really at every level of the system. And you heard them talk a little bit about the impact of having some of their team go to that conference. So I'm really excited in partnership with our teachers who are using some of their personal professional growth initiative money alongside principals who are also using their personal professional growth money. And then we are repurposing some funds that we're not going to be spending in the district. We are taking 57 confirmed staff to the PLC Institute in August in Seattle. And while we are talking about the challenges of budgets, the fact that staff are willing to go and give 3 days of their time, they're not paid for their time. They go, it's in the summer, so we're not paying for substitutes. Their students are not missing them. And we're going to a location where we all can drive and carpool to get there. So we're doing it, I think, in a creative way, but it just speaks to the passion and commitment of our educators. That is, I'll do the numbers for you another day, but I'm going to guess like 10 to 15%, 20% of our teaching staff are going. So just phenomenal. Thank you for being front runners in that work. Just really, really excited about that. And I just want to close by saying leadership matters. And so kudos to your team and everyone at your school, but that doesn't happen without somebody steering the ship. And so I just really want to congratulate you, Principal Palmer, and also to your assistant principals. I know you're going to turn it right back to your team.
Share it.
And I just want to say leadership matters. And so this work wouldn't happen without you and your team at the helm. So thank you so much. This is a pleasure to hear about all the great work tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, we have another very exciting presentation. It is our monthly financial report with Executive Director Paula McCoy.
I don't know that I can top that. That was fabulous. You guys did a phenomenal job. All right. Well, again, thank you to the fabulous high school team and their phenomenal report. We're going to talk another great topic, which is finance. In the board packet this month was a rather, well, I mean, I was going to joke and say rather brief, but it was rather long year-end summary report that encapsulated last year's financial results. We mentioned in the last board presentation, we were able to close out the year really in a
very modest, flat position. That was through a lot of considerable efforts on the part of the district, working with the board, working with leadership, working with the buildings to try to get creative and implement a lot of cost-cutting measures. And that is our goal again this year. This year we started the budget in a position where we were in a deficit. We're gonna take that goal on again this year to try to manage that. And right now we're off to a good position to do that. We'll look at some of the financial, where we're at financially with the revenues and expenses, but we are in a good position to manage that. Work, and our district leadership team is committed to doing that again this year. For enrollment, November we were up a little bit from last month. December we are down just a hair, but we're still in a good position with our enrollment. We are coming up on the busy holiday season, so we do anticipate that there'll be a lot of movement both in and out over the break, which is pretty typical for our school district. So it's not really certain what's going to happen over the holidays, but we do know that there'll be a lot of movement. For looking out at our October activity quickly, it is, we did have a lot of variation looking at last year to this year, which we'll go through. For October with the revenues, we did have some timing differences with our property taxes. Last year, 23-24, the county notified us that they had some delay in the last couple days of the business year with escrow deposits. So 23-24, we saw a little bit of a dip in our on the last couple days of October for property taxes, which caused actually a large variance between October and November for 23-24. Looking at 24-25, we're back to a normal month for October. So you'll see a little bit of a difference when you're comparing October of this year to October of last year and November of this year to November of last year. But what you do need to know for property taxes is we are right on target for what we should have for our receivable balance at the end of November. We should be pretty much fully collected for our taxes, which is where we're at. We're about 99.5% of our collection rate, which is right on target with where we should be for a normal year. And also I wanted to mention that another report that we typically will be submitting this time of year and will be available in January. Our office does a personnel summary report. That summarizes all the staffing that we have in the district along with our fiscal data. Both reports are typically released by the state in the month of January. So the report that you have in your board packet along with our staffing summary reports will be available by OSPI to the public sometime in the month of January. So just wanted to give you a heads up on that. So looking at enrollment, we don't have the December data in there, but from November to December, we did go down by 9 FTE. So again, just a modest decline in enrollment, but otherwise we're right in line with the month of November. Looking at revenue, this is that jump in property tax revenue that I was talking about in the month of October. So the blue is what we budgeted, which is based on historical, which last year is the black. So orange is the current year. We did have a jump, and that is due to the property tax revenues from last year. But again, November, we're back in line with a typical year. Looking at our expenditure activity, the green line across the graph there, that is our minimum fund balance policy. So again, fund balance is important because that's your money in your bank. And our expenditures, the blue is our budget, looking at what we set for our board budget for the beginning of the year. The orange is our actual expenses. We are down a little bit in the month of October, and that is just due to the timing of our check runs for this month. When we look at November, and we averaged the 3 months, we're actually in line with our budget. The only difference, and when we get into the materials and supplies expense graph, you'll see that dip. It's again due to the timing of our check runs that we have this year. So cash flow, this is our activity looking at our cash position or fund balance position throughout the year. That yellow line is our fund balance policy. The blue line is based upon the budget and what we projected for the year. That red line is the actual, and that spike in October is due to that property tax, the revenues coming in higher than what we anticipated. Now getting into our general fund supplies, materials. This is our AP transactions or non-payroll transactions. In October, we had a little bit of a dip. And again, that's due to the timing of our check runs. We had one less check run in the month of October this month compared to last year. So there's a little bit of a dip in the month of October, but you'll see an adjustment in the month of November, which is just due to a timing. Looking at payroll, payroll costs are coming in right in line with budget for the month of October, and are right on target with the current budget overall so far this year. Any questions on I know I kind of went through that quickly. Are there any questions on the financial update? All right. You're welcome.
I put that picture on there because I think that's mini Paula right there. She's got curly hair and glasses. It's like future Paula right there, counting the money. Thank you, Executive Director McCoy. We have, I think, just one more thing that it's not one more thing, one more set of slides. So I promise I'm going to go fairly quickly with the rest of the superintendent update. I know board members, you're going to talk a little bit about the WASDA conference. I just want to say publicly thank you for the commitment of time to leave your jobs and your families for 3 days to go and be at the Washington State School Directors Association conference last month. I think there's great learning for all of us. And also just really appreciate the time that you take to be partners in this work with me and with my team, and to be learners as well, because I think everybody is up here is a learner. So I just appreciated that time to learn together. I talked the last couple of meetings about the staff civility survey. And so I wanted to share with you the data because we've closed that survey out. We had 101 respondents. That includes people across all job systems in our district. And the prompts included short answer, Likert scale, ranking items, check boxes, and open-ended questions. And I'm going to give you just kind of a quick overview of what came out of that. It was an open-ended question. What does civility mean to you? And when I compiled all 101 responses, the themes that came out are listed here. It's really about respect and dignity was a word that was used a lot. Kindness and common courtesy, professionalism, constructive communication, the golden rule on fairness, and community and collaboration. I think it's important just to note there was a handful of comments about the misuse of the word civility to silence dissent or to avoid discomfort. So just really want to clearly share publicly that this is not the intent of this policy, but really to be able to create this balance between civility and authenticity. There was also several comments that talked about civility, not just in the words that we say, but in our nonverbal communication, and also things we might do outside of the day, such as social media conduct. Overall, the definition really boiled down to fostering respect, kindness, and professionalism in all of our interactions, while also encouraging honest communication and collaboration. We also asked the converse question, what does incivility mean to you? And there was a few more themes that came out of this, but really you can see much of this is the opposite of what we just talked about: rudeness and disrespect, hostile or aggressive behavior, unprofessional conduct, disruptive and toxic behaviors, a lack of accountability, exclusion and inequities, dismissiveness, and negative communication. We also had some folks in this response that really talked about the range of expression, from things that were very subtle around like facial expression to very overt, like actual verbal bullying. There was also a recognition, and I thought this was, but to me, it just speaks to the grace of our staff, that sometimes when someone is acting in an incivil way, it really stems from personal struggles. It might not really be about you. It might be about what's going on in that other person's life. But also there was recognition that the impact on the professional environment necessitates that we have clear definitions, boundaries, and consequences for that type of behavior. And a few folks highlighted the role of incivility in perpetuating power imbalances. So as a definition, just to sum it up, a range of behaviors that disrupt respect, professionalism, and collaboration, often leading to harm and conflict. We asked a question about how should our team interact, communicate, and or resolve conflicts in a civil manner. And I always like to get down to details. So I asked, what would that look, sound, and or feel like? And so you can see here just kind of a wrap up of how people described those behaviors. I'm going to go fairly quickly, but all these slides will be posted as part of our board packet, so you can go back and dig in longer. How have you handled incivility in the past? What went well, or what would you do differently? We had 5 different themes that came out of those responses. Direct engagement. So quite a few folks saying like, I would attempt to engage with that person, make sure that I was speaking in a respectful way. I'm feeling this, right? Seeking understanding. Avoidance and disengagement also came up though. So we have some folks who feel, I think, more comfortable with that direct engagement, and others who just said, I just ignored it. I was too uncomfortable. I didn't have faith that we would be able to resolve it. Some people even talked about, I thought it might make the situation worse. So I would say we have both of those things cropping up for our staff. We also heard about seeking support. Some folks do reach out to their administrators, their union representatives, or human resources, although with mixed results. Positive outcomes, folks did really see that hinging on the responsiveness and effectiveness of leadership. And when cases are unresolved, that definitely fed some frustration and mistrust that's been harder to overcome over time. A few folks talked about reflective practices, particularly self-regulation. This is my favorite. You don't send the email the day of, you wait a day and sleep on it, and then you edit and resend the email. So I think some of our staff are doing some things like that just to monitor themselves. And then some systemic challenges, that some of it really just reflects broader issues such as inconsistency from administration, and I'm going to say central services, lack of clear protocols, entrenched behaviors. And there were several folks that talked about fear of retaliation or just that concerns were dismissed. So I think that is exactly precisely why we're having this conversation and why I'm interested in a civility policy, because I want folks to know that we don't allow for retaliation and that we do want to hear and address concerns, that we won't dismiss them. We asked a little bit about a time when you experienced a productive disagreement or conflict. I do want to just say, and I've said it before, but conflict's not a dirty word. Conflict can be very productive if handled appropriately and professionally. So some key themes that came out of that was active listening and showing empathy, respectful communication, really being in a problem-solving mode or collaborating together, assuming positive intent of all parties. Preparation, like really preparing for those conversations, and then taking time to do some self-reflection, facilitation and structure, workplace culture and relationships, and emotional intelligence. We asked a whole series of questions along this Likert scale. So I know it's quite small, but the bright blue to the far left is strongly disagree, red is disagree, the orangey yellow is somewhat disagree, the green is somewhat agree, purple is agree, blue is strongly agree. I always have someone who gives me the feedback, well, you didn't put a neutral response. You're right. I didn't on purpose because I want to make sure that people are forced to land on one side or the other of the continuum. It's not helpful to me when we just say, well, I don't know. So that's always intentional, but there's a variety of things here that just ask some questions about how do you feel about these different things that could happen. I also asked, how do you believe your direct supervisor addresses incivility? And you can see these were too small, so I retyped the little comments, but kind of how people felt about supervisor responses, kind of all over the map. This is one of the few questions where we saw the full range of responses from the respondents. In general, how civil do you believe the following groups are today? And I asked for the next couple of questions based on the 3 months. So since the start of this school year, wanting to just get a pulse on how people are feeling about this specific school year. And you can see there is not a lot of dark blue and red, the very uncivil or uncivil. So I think that's really heartening. You also see that the one with the most negative or uncivil responses is society in general, where all the other things that are about Ridgefield are more positive. So it's true. All the kids are above average and it's wonderful here. Okay. To what extent have you observed or experienced the following civil behaviors in our school or district? This was just a 4-point scale. So blue is never, I've never experienced this school year. Red, the second one over is rarely, the kind of orangey yellow is often, and the green is very often. So you can see just sort of what sort of things have we seen this school year. A lot of courtesy, politeness, positivity, pretty high, I would say often, very often around integrity, honest and ethical behavior. So those are really positive to see. There's a whole nother set of those. Often the positive role modeling by staff and leadership. So I think that's really speaks to the quality of our staff. Respectful verbal communication has a real tall one there as well. And then I asked also for this school year, have you personally experienced or witnessed RSD employees, any employees, engaging in any of the following? This is just a 3 choices here. The blue is not experienced or witnessed. The red is I've witnessed it happening to someone else. And the yellow is I've personally experienced it. And in some cases, people did give me some comments like, well, what if I experienced it and I witnessed it? So there's a little bit of fluctuation probably in the reds and yellows in the second and third column of each response. But in general, you can kind of see where things are falling out. Concerning to me, we have about almost 30 that said I've personally experienced that staff was rude or inconsiderate. Gossiping is pretty high. So I think there's some interesting things to think about in this data. Same prompt, just more things. I also wanted to get a beat on how do people handle it or cope, because there will always be conflict at work. And we hope that we can do that in a civil way. But when faced with incivility, how do you typically cope? And they could check as many as they wanted. So changing routines in your life, I can get you the full length there, but it's basically saying to avoid the person or the situation. 67% have done that versus 46 confronting. So definitely some uncomfortability to have some of those courageous conversations with colleagues. Yeah. And I think this is the last one. How important is having a district civility policy to you? Because I just thought, well, maybe this is just a Jenny thing. But I wanted to check. So very unimportant, 18%, somewhat unimportant, 10%. So that's 28. And then somewhat important, 31, and very important, 41. So 72% of our staff, basically, based on the respondents, said this is important to me, either somewhat or very. So I feel like that is enough for us to continue forward with this work. I'm going to move to a new topic. Regional levy comparisons, because coming up, we have some old business. We're going to have a second reading of some potential ballot measures for this February. And I wanted the board to be aware of other local districts that have already approved resolutions to be on the February ballot. And then I wanted to just share with you various ballot items that have been approved or passed in the last year. So I only went back to last February to pull those, and these actually all were from last February. So for this February, Battleground, our neighbor, is running a replacement EP&O levy, which is also one of the things before you tonight for us. Theirs is to raise $166 million over 4 years. So we've been talking about a 3-year term here. Their estimated rate is $1.95 per $1,000 of assessed valuation, which is an increase from their current EP&O rate of $1.65. So a little higher than ours and a larger increase than what we're looking at. Hawkinson School District is running a bond. I wish my Hawkinson's friends well. They really need that new school, but it's for $87.8 million. The estimated rate is $1.42 per thousands of assessed valuation. They have a bond that is actually sunsetting at the same time. So it's a 71-cent increase over the bond that is coming to its end. And then Vancouver is running a capital and technology levy. That's the other type of levy we've been talking about. They're looking at $83 million raised over 6 years. We've been talking about just a 3-year proposal. Their rate actually is an escalating. So it starts at 29 cents approximately for 2 years, then 36, and then 38. So there's this variable over time. Last year, just for some more comparison for you as you make this important decision this evening, Battleground ran a technology levy last year in February. It was $28 million for 3 years at an approximate rate of 44 cents per thousand. So that is continuing. That would be their technology levy, and then they have their replacement EP&O, so 2 in place. Camas School District, also one of our neighbors, they ran a replacement capital levy. They've been doing that for a while now, and they also ran a replacement EP&O levy. So that's similar to the situation that we have been discussing. Their replacement capital was for $17 million over 4 years at an estimated rate of 39 cents per thousand assessed valuation. And the replacement EP&O was $80 million over 4 years at an estimated rate of $1.82 per 1,000 assessed valuation. And then Woodland School District, I think most folks are aware, had a double levy failure, which resulted in the loss of a lot of jobs in Woodland for this school year, and I believe last year. And so they, I'm so grateful that last year they were able to move forward with theirs, and it was approved for $22 million over 3 years. And the estimated rate is $2.20 per $1,000 assessed valuation. So just wanted to give you some regional comparisons as you think about those proposals this evening. And the last thing is I just wanted to share some fun pictures. So very excited, got to go to my first Ridgefield hometown celebration this last weekend. Fantastic community event. Thanks to all of the folks who make the amazing things that happen in our community happen. But you can see here, the top left, this is our middle school choir from Sunset and View. They did a lovely job caroling. And then the bottom picture right below it is our middle school band. So they also did a great job. Our high school choir also performed in the rain, pouring rain, and our high school band musicians did roving musicians. So they were kind of all over the place, which was super fun to walk around and hear them playing. Shout out to my new best friends at the Ridgefield Garden Society. The sign said kids, and I said, well, I am someone's kid, so I'm going to make one too. Super fun. You'll probably find me there next year because I was like, how do I help with this? Because this is amazing. So that's my little centerpiece that I made. My sister came to visit. So that's my sister with Oscar and Big Bird. We're both really big Sesame Street fans. And of course, the pièce de résistance, right? The big tree lighting was super fun. Just want to say thank you again to the city. It was just a wonderful event and great time. Saw lots of our teachers and staff and some of our administrators out there. So fun was had by all. Poor vendors, though. It's cold and rainy for them. That takes it back to you guys.
All right, so we've got board updates. Communication, Jake, do you have anything?
Yeah, a few things, just be brief, take the time here. Was unable to attend our November meetings, just wanted to do a shout out to performing arts. I was able to attend Arsenic and Old Lace like several weeks ago. It's early November. It was a fantastic performance. Just shout out to our students and staff. Witty, great energy. Was blown away. It was my first play or musical at the high school in attendance. So that was amazing. Shout out to our girls soccer. One state title is quite the legacy, but back-to-back is next level. So I'm sure we will be celebrating those girls appropriately in the new year. We've touched on the WASDA conference. It was an amazing experience to be there as a team and to have a lot of learnings, specifically for me, sessions around levies and strategic planning. We're obviously going to be entering strategic planning process over the next year, and also levies are obviously top of mind tonight. For me personally, in my legislative role, a lot of learnings in terms of what I can do in this position moving forward, and excited for that. The hot topics for WASDA's legislative agenda are around funding for SPED and for transportation. So as bills come out, look forward to some updates from me as how the community and others can get involved and help bring support there. My monthly chat, Bunnies, December 18th, next Wednesday at 4 p.m. Come join me.
Thanks, Jake. Donna?
I really don't like going after Jake.
What does that mean?
He makes such a great presentation.
Thank you.
Not. I'd like to thank the everyone from the high school that came and presented tonight. It was fantastic. Thank you so much for all your time and your dedication. It's going to make a big difference. I know it. It already is. It already is. And congratulations to our girls soccer back-to-back state champs. That's amazing. That speaks volumes. Yep. Unfortunately, I was the only one not able to go to the conference due to I have a new job and I could not get the time off. So I look forward to getting briefed by everyone. And thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thanks, Donna. Amanda?
I also want to congratulate the girls soccer team. I feel like we all have to give props. That was pretty amazing. We were trying to like track the highlights while we were at conference, and we sent a little video cheering them on and congratulating them, but it was really fun to get to be a part of that kind of from afar, but together. That was really nice. The conference was really wonderful for me. Just I got to do the board boot camp, which was kind of a training, and I get to learn about governance and all those fun words and policy and my role versus a superintendent's role and how we can connect with community. And we did some really cool trainings where we learned how to engage different community members and do these things called empathy interviews. That was really fun. I got to interview with Danny, and it was really amazing. It was very short, but really powerful. And I'd love to take that out when we go out and learn more about our community and get feedback from them. It was, we learned a lot. I kind of like fire hose effect. I learned almost too much. I'm going blank. Like there was so much. But yeah, and we got to connect too. It was really neat, not just with our board here, but a lot of the regional boards and all across the state. And it was really nice to get to know just that, you're not alone doing all the things. Like we work as there's tons of us all across the state, and all the different challenges that all the different districts are facing statewide, big, small, and just kind of seeing how it all relates to community and a sense of belonging. And the schools are really like where a lot of the community feels that sense of belonging and how we can kind of get everybody on board together. So I was very thankful that I got to go. So thank you for letting me attend that, everyone. And there was meals provided. I have to say that was my favorite part. There's meals. I didn't even have to think about it or make them. So.
Thanks, Amanda. Amanda was our Energizer bunny there. She was just like, let's go, let's go. So it was cool. Amber.
Yes, she definitely was. So I'll just share a little bit, a couple of things that highlights from the conference, from the sessions that I went to. First, I've never been to an educators conference. I've been to many, many conferences in my life. And it's amazing how good at teaching teachers are. It was incredible. It was like every session was super engaging. People are good at speaking. I mean, I go to a lot of farm conferences and it's a different vibe, definitely. So it was a beautiful group of people to be around and to be learning from. I think for the theme for me from the sessions that I went to was really around community engagement, which is a kind of conversation and topic that is really important to me. I found myself in lots of workshops on how other districts are doing that. We heard from a lot of districts that have youth rep on their board, representatives on their board. And so I think that has been a conversation and will continue to be a conversation that we'll want to continue here. So excited to bring that back. I had learned about the Ferndale School District and their bond oversight committee last year when we were looking into that concept in terms of a collaborative community kind of review and support process. So got to hear from that district and some of their committee members from the community. And just felt like we have some people to get on the phone with who could help us learn from what worked, didn't work. Their presentation was really wonderful as we look at kind of revamping some kind of capital facilities advisory group, which will have a fancy name that is not that. Yes, and then also South Whidbey School District, a really small district, had this beautiful presentation on stakeholder involvement in policy review at a school district level. And I loved learning from what they have done and how they decide which policies to do a full community review process with, and that they do that once, maybe every 1 or 2 years, because it takes so much time to really dig in with community. So that was a good sort of reality check for me. I'm like, let's do it for everything. And so they had a great framework for how to look at that. So just lots to be excited about in looking at launching our strategic planning process with you, Dr. Rodriguez, in the coming year. I'm excited for that work. My coffee hours at Lava Java are this Thursday, 8:30 to 10 a.m. I do realize it is retired folks' time, so thank you for retired folks who come and sit with me and others who are able to wiggle their work schedules around, but I'll be there and I would love to hear from you. A shout out to the Union Ridge PTO for their holiday bazaar. It was amazing. I think Allison Peterson headed that up this time. It was really fun. If you didn't get to go, I highly recommend it next year. There are so many amazing creative kids And I think some of them made some bank, which was really cool to see them learning how to count out their money. And it was really fun. So that's where our family was on the rainy holiday hometown celebration day. And ditto on the soccer girls, but can't say that enough. Super excited about them.
Thanks, Amber. Okay, I'm gonna make it quick, but yep, soccer, awesome. RHS, good job. All right, great job. A year ago, kind of did a report, and you're staying steady, you're staying strong, you're staying the course, and that's what it's going to take. And it's not going to be an easy course, but you guys are doing it, and I appreciate it. And we're gonna just keep building off small successes. So good job, Paula. Thank you. That was quick, short, and sweet, and looked good. All right, thanks for your time. The WASDA, what I got out of that was big district, small district, rich district, poor district, east side, west side. We all have the same problems. All right. We are all fighting for the same thing. And you heard it over and over. It's community. These schools, these districts are the representation of community. Doesn't matter what town you live in. And it's the great job and the unfortunate job that this job is the glue that holds it all together. All right. It's important. I think we learn. I've never been to one of these things either. And I learned a lot. I didn't know anything going into it, so I had nowhere to go but up. But I was glad that the time was well spent. I look forward to going to it next year. So thank you, Jenny, for encouraging us to go to that. I would also, Barbara Wright, she made a comment that kind of stuck with me. The arts program from kindergarten through 12th grade. I think that's kudos to Ridgefield. That's showing dedication to the arts, and I appreciate that. Because that's something everybody can do, right? And you're your own judge, whether you're good or bad. I think it's important. And then last but not least, Dr. Rodriguez, thank you for the civility evaluation or report. I have one major problem with that. That piegram should have been 100%. Like, everybody deserves a civil workplace. I don't understand how anybody would say at 10% that civility is not important in my workplace. That shocks me. It should be 100%. So take it as 100%.
Okay. All right. We're on to, old business. Oh, public comment. I lied.
And we do have public comment
we do.
tonight. We do.
Okay.
We have several people sign up for public comment. So just a reminder that each person will be given 3 minutes to speak. There will be a timer on the big TVs. It changes colors and makes a sound when you get to 30 seconds. So hopefully that helps. Our first speaker is Abby Braithwaite here. Did she make it? Okay. Then we will move on to Aria Taylor.
Hello, my name is Aria Taylor, and I am in 5th grade at Sunset Ridge Intermediate School. I'm representing the kids that want a playground. We think that we should have a playground because it allows us to get rid of energy and it's a lot more fun. Another reason is that we should have a place to get to be whenever kids who like to do art draw, because sometimes the library just doesn't have enough space and people use the shelving as like boundaries, which shows that people do prefer to have playgrounds. And That's why I think we need a playground. Thank you. I also have 42 different signatures, including 2 different teachers. No, 3 different adults from Sunset Ridge. Thank you.
Thank you. That takes guts, and I'm proud of you for doing that. Good job.
Kellyanna Cole.
That's exactly the kind of thing I was doing at that age too. Getting signatures and stuff. Is anyone surprised? Okay. As a parent and active member of Ridgefield, I've seen how our community comes together to solve challenges. The Family Resource Center, the Green Bag Project, and our recent turkey trot are just a few examples of what we can achieve when we work together. Tonight, you're voting to place 2 essential levies on the ballot for the February 11th special election. These levies are critical to supporting our schools and building a much needed 3rd elementary. The first is the EP&O levy renewal, which bridges the gap between state funding and the actual cost of funding our schools. It funds teachers, classroom support, supplies, transportation, and enrichment programs, all essential services that directly impact every student's education and well-being. The second is the Capital and Technology Levy, which will fund the construction of a much needed 3rd elementary school. This plan reflects months of community input through town halls, surveys, and discussions. It's practical, no frills, and is specifically designed to alleviate the strain on our overburdened elementary schools. This is a unique opportunity. The district has developed a creative, community-driven solution to fund this school by using developer impact fees, leveraging surplus funds from the School Construction Assistance Program, and reducing the timeline for taxpayer commitment from decades to years, minimizing the long-term tax burden on our community. This is exactly what the community asked for, to use community input to inform your next ask and be smart about funding. This plan does just that. It leverages community voices and maximizing outside resources to address the need for a new elementary school while easing the impact on local taxpayers. I want to thank you guys. You know, listening is so important, and that's what we heard during the last exercise of trying to get new schools built, is that people wanted to be heard, and I think we've done exactly that. Your leadership really does ensure that our schools will remain places of excellence and opportunity. So now it's up to us. And I just want to tell you guys that the Citizens for Ridgefield Schools is ready to get these levies passed. And so I urge you to vote yes to place the EP&O and Capital and Technology levy on the ballot for February 11th, so that we can ensure that we have strong schools and a strong Ridgefield.
Thank you.
And our last comment will be Carrie Upton.
All right, hello Ridgefield School Board of Directors. My name is Carrie Upton and I'm here on behalf of the Citizens for Ridgefield Schools. As a new board member, I've been asked to represent our group and share this following statement. So as an educator, I've witnessed firsthand how investments in our schools strengthen the heart of our community. Today, we ask for your support in voting yes to place the renewal of the EP&O levy and the Capital and Technology levy on the ballot for the February 11th election. The EP&O levy funds essential programs such as special education, athletics, arts, and classroom support, programs that directly enhance the quality of education for our students. Meanwhile, the Capital and Technology levy addresses the district's most urgent needs, including the plans for a 3rd elementary school to alleviate overcrowding. This was developed through extensive community input. We believe the Capital levy represents a community-driven solution with $21 million secured from developer impact fees and an additional 16 million available in state matching funding, this approach maximizes resources while ensuring safe, high-quality learning environments for every student. We believe that we can continue Ridgefield's tradition of coming together to address important challenges. Placing these levies on the ballot demonstrates that the district has listened to its community and developed solutions that support our students, schools, and our shared future. Following the recent town hall meeting, our Citizens for Ridgefield Schools has worked diligently to make intentional and important adjustments to better serve our overall mission. So one of our key goals has been to expand and diversify our leadership. I'm proud to share that our board has grown to 8 dedicated board members who are eager and prepared to support this vote tonight. We are committed to embracing the entire community of volunteers and working collaboratively to lead a successful campaign for both levies. So thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. All right, now that takes us to old business.
Whew, okay. Item 8A before you is to approve resolution number 2024-2025-002, replacement educational programs and operations levy. This is our second time looking at the draft resolution. Just by way of reminder for the board, this is, if approved, would be a special election on February 11th, 2025. And the taxes collected would be just over $14 million in 2025 for collection in 2026, 14.685 million in 26 for collection in 27, and 15.325 million in 27 for collection in 28. In order to support continuing programs in our district. Happy to answer any questions that the board might have.
No questions. Can I get a motion?
I move that we approve item 8A as written.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I feel like I want to clap. I hope I'm allowed to say that. All right, moving on to agenda item number 8B, to approve resolution number 2024-2025-003, the capital project and technology levy. This is again a second reading of this particular resolution, also to be placed on the 2025 February 2025 ballot at a rate of 84 cents approximately per $1,000 of assessed valuation. Happy to answer any questions.
I just, microphone. I don't know if it's okay to make a comment, not just a question, but just a thank you, Jenny, because Dr. Rodriguez, to be more formal, I will say that we heard in public comment that this has been a community process that I believe really started even before you got here last year. And I appreciate the time that you've spent to really read through all of the comments, look at all of the surveys, sit with all of the people that you have to bring a creative and new idea to the board a couple of months ago, and then to continue to revise and listen and get more feedback. And so anyone who is just tuning in, even what we are voting on right now is not what the original idea was, because there has been a commitment all the way through this process up until now to listen and revise. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. It's one thing to say a thing and it's another to demonstrate it. So I feel like that has been demonstrated from my perspective. So I just wanted to say thank you, because I see many drafts and iterations of an idea that are have been flushed out with lots of input. So thank you. And I am ready to move, if that's okay. Can I move? I move that we approve item 8B as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Oh, I'm just so grateful. Thank you for the kind words, but just grateful to people who have continued to share and partner with us in this process. Moving on to agenda item number 8C. This is to approve revised board policy number 4130, Title I, Part A, Parents and Family Engagement. We did first reading at our last board meeting. Just a reminder, this was a formatting correction that needed to be made, no substantive changes. We recommend that the board approve the revision.
I move we approve item 8C as written.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Moving to agenda item number 8D, approving new board policy number 5641, student teachers. Again, this is second read. We discussed it at the last board meeting. Just a reminder of the background. We have historically not had a student teacher policy in Ridgefield School District. This policy aligns with the WASDA model policy recommendations and provides clarity for prospective student teachers seeking placement in the district. And just to again clarify publicly that we love it when our paras are pursuing their teaching certification or when our parents or family members want to pursue their teaching credential here in our district. So this policy ensures that they have that opportunity. Happy to answer any questions.
I move we approve item 8D as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
People don't know how much that means. Yeah. All right, moving on to agenda item number 8E, approving revised board policy number 3142, international exchange students. We heard the first reading last time. Just a reminder, we added language to this policy to ensure that international exchange students are able to participate in all school-sponsored events during their time as a Ridgefield School District student. That includes participation in commencement exercises. Again, happy to answer questions.
I move we approve item 8E as written.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to agenda item number 8F, approving revised board policy number 6213, reimbursement of travel expenses. Again, really limited changes to the policy. Last time we did just discuss that we did update our procedures to ensure that we are providing comparable support for all student groups when they travel, whether it's athletics or the arts or club activities. We want to make sure that we're supporting all of our students equally in those exciting opportunities. So again, recommending approval of the updates.
I move we approve item 8F as written.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're moving to new business. So moving to item number 9A, this is first reading. So we're not taking action this evening, but first reading of the Ridgefield School District Action Plan related to lead in drinking water. We've talked about this also in previous meetings, but all school districts in the state of Washington are required to test all drinking water for lead sometime between 2014 and June 30th of 2026. We had an approved contractor come out to test water. The final report was received on October 21st of this year. And working in consultation and really partnership with the Washington State Department of Health, we've developed the action plan that's included. We have already completed all of the required mitigation measures, ordered replacement fixtures for remediation of all faucets and drinking fountains that tested above 5 parts per billion in compliance with the recommendations of both the contractor and the Department of Health. We are actually in the process right now of installing fixtures. And so once that is completed, we will do some retesting as required. The Board of Directors is required to approve that action plan following an opportunity for public comment. So we will have public comment on this at the next regular board meeting, and then I'll bring it back to you for approval. Happy to answer any questions if there are any at this time.
How many fixtures were affected?
41.
And were there more in any specific schools than others?
All 41 are either at Union Ridge in the original building, South Ridge in the original building, and a couple of our buildings at Ridgefield High School that are also quite aged.
Thank you.
Mhm. Flipping papers here. Here we go. Okay. The next new business item, which isn't a first read, second read situation. This is one requiring action this evening, is to appoint citizen members to the pro and con committees for the Clark County Voters Guide. This is something that the board is required to do. And given that you have approved both levies for placement in on the February ballot, Danny will be hand delivering those with signatures tomorrow. They're due by Friday. And in addition, the Clark County works with citizen members to do the pro and con statements for the voters guide, which are due on this Friday. Looking at my friends in the audience. We had 4 folks that volunteered for the pro committee. You can appoint up to 3. The 4 that submitted their names for consideration were Jenna Boucher Hill, Bill Bauman, Kellyanna Cole, and Megan Dudley. And for the con committee, we didn't receive any volunteers, but we do need to have you take action on the pro committee.
Are we nominating the 3 right now? Okay.
Did we get any information from the people who applied beyond their contact info to like?
We did. I believe that I believe Jenna is willing to serve, but also willing to step aside. And I believe the other 3 applicants strongly would like to participate.
Okay.
So
I'm like, how do we decide
Yeah.
this? Everyone.
I just need to make a motion.
I know we can only
to
pick
appoint
3.
these 3
okay.
to the committee.
So I'll make a motion that we appoint Jenna Boucher, no, sorry, not Jenna. Bill Bauman, Kellyanna Cole, and Megan Dudley to write the 3 pro statements.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Was there any discussion?
We didn't ask for that. As long as we know that Jenna is happy to support however, and we're not missing an opportunity to loop somebody in who was excited to participate, then I feel like that's great. But we just voted.
That's true. That is true.
Doing it all wrong.
It's okay. Even board members get tired.
human.
Okay, moving to our next item. Board annual reorganization. We have to do this each year for president and vice president of the board, and it begins January. So that's why we need to do it this evening. So we need to call for nominations for president of the board for this next calendar year for 2025. And they can nominate first, right? Yeah, okay. Are there any nominations for the board, president of the board position for this next year?
We'll nominate Brett Jones for president of the board.
I'm going to call a second time for any nominations. And I'm going to call a third time for any nominations. Okay. All right. We have a nomination for Brett Jones to serve as president of the board for 2025. Danny, could you please do a roll call vote?
Jake,
Aye.
Donna,
Aye.
Amanda,
Aye.
Amber,
Aye.
and Brett.
After that last mistake, I don't know, but I'll say yes.
You could have abstained.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And now moving to the position of vice president of the board. I'm calling for nominations for the vice president for 2025.
I would like to nominate Amber Baker.
Thank you. Second call for nominations for vice president. Third call for nominations for vice president. All right, we have a nomination for Amber Baker to serve as vice president for the 2025 school year. Danny, could you do a roll call vote?
Jake,
Aye.
Donna,
Aye.
Amanda,
Aye.
Amber,
Aye.
and Brett.
Aye. Okay, so that wraps that.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Good job.
Yeah, you too.
All right. Thank you. So
I don't believe we have our closed session attendees, so we'll reschedule.
okay, and then we will reschedule that. And then is there any reason for?
An executive session paper for me? Yes, we do need to have a brief executive session, probably just 5 minutes, to provide an update on potential real property purchase, which is sale or lease of agency real estate, RCW 42.30.1101B and 1C.
Okay, so we will take 5 minutes in executive session and then come back and make a motion.
There'll be no action.
No
after.
action. Okay, so come back and close the meeting.
Yeah. So speedy. Speedy, you can leave all your stuff where it's gonna be
Okay.
put.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, go for it. I'll bring you out here. I was gonna have. That's okay. I will.
Okay, we are back from our executive session and I am calling this meeting to adjourn. Thank you. It was here when I left. It's gone. I didn't get to whack it.
Okay, make sure you sign all the things.